The first thing Commander Vreth-9 of the Korrali Observation Fleet noticed about the humans was that they had absolutely no idea what they had found. That was not unusual. Many species stumbled upon things they could not comprehend. The Durathians had once walked across the corpse of a dead god and assumed it was a particularly unusual mountain range. The Sheg had discovered a faster-than-light corridor and spent 1,100 years using it exclusively to ship fermented grain products. Discovery, in the grand theater of the universe, did not always come hand in hand with understanding. But this was something else entirely. "They are calling it Maw 7, said Vreth-9 second officer, Poyo, his 6 eyes scanning the translated data feed. Their scientists believe it is a standard stellar mass black hole, isolated, dormant, of minor academic interest." Vreth-9 stared at the holographic projection hanging in the center of the command deck. The thing pulsed, faintly like something breathing, and we're certain they have no idea what it actually is. "None whatsoever," Poyo said. He had a gift for delivering terrible news with the calmness of a stone. "Their probe entered the outer accretion region 42 of their hours ago. They are now preparing to send a crude vessel, a small one, 2 humans." Vreth-9 closed his primary eyes. He opened them again. The black hole still pulsed. He had hoped he had imagined it. He had not. "2 humans," he repeated very quietly, "are about to fly directly into the most dangerous object in this quadrant of the galaxy." "Yes, and they are excited about this." "Extremely," Poyo confirmed. One of them described it as, and I am reading the translation accurately, "super cool." There was a silence on the command deck that had texture to it. The kind of silence that forms when an entire room of trained professionals cannot decide whether to laugh or begin emergency protocols. Vreth-9 stood up from his seat. He was tall, even by Korrali standards, gray-plated and deliberate in all his movements. He had served 40 years in deep observation. He had watched empires dissolve and suns collapse. He was not, as a rule, a being who panicked. He was, however, a being who read reports. And the report on Maw 7, classified at the highest tier of the Korrali Intelligence Archive, was not a minor academic document. It was 96,000 pages long. The summary alone had a warning label that most junior officers had to apply for psychological clearance to read. The object the humans were calling Maw 7 was not a standard black hole. It was, to use the precise Korrali term, a memory sink. A structure that had been theorized for centuries and observed exactly twice before, both times at a catastrophic distance. A black hole that did not merely consume matter. It consumed information, not just the data encoded in particles, not just the quantum state stripped from atoms at the event horizon. Everything, every decision that led to matter entering its field, every thought held by any consciousness that had ever looked at it too long, every record, transmitted or stored, that described it in sufficient detail. It remembered. That was the horror of it. It pulled at the fabric of recorded history, like a current pulling at cloth. The closer you got, the more it learned about you, and the more it learned, the more it wanted. 14 Korrali survey ships had approached within close range over the past 3 centuries. Of those, 6 had turned back successfully, their crews reporting intense psychological disturbance and significant data corruption. The remaining 8 had simply stopped transmitting. No wreckage, no signal, no trace, just silence, and then the uncomfortable suspicion that somewhere inside that swirling dark, the records of those ships' entire existence were being slowly digested. The humans had sent a probe. Their probe was transmitting beautifully. Every reading was clean, nominal, completely unremarkable. Vreth-9 had reviewed the data himself and found it, frankly, unsettling in its cheerfulness. "The memory sink," he said carefully, "is letting them look." Poyo did not answer immediately. That was answer enough. "It learns from what enters a field," Vreth-9 continued, more to himself than to anyone in the room. "A probe gives it limited data. But a crude vessel, with 2 conscious minds aboard, broadcasting continuously, with full navigational and biological telemetry." He stopped. "It would learn more from 2 humans in 4 hours than has learned from anything in decades." The probe readings have been flagged as anomalous in one respect, Pollo said. He pulled up a secondary display. The gravitational data is consistent with a mass approximately 14 times what should be physically possible given the visible accretion disk. It has been eating, Vreth-9 said. For some time, yes, quietly. The command deck was very still. Out through the forward observation panel, 14 light minutes away, Maw 7 turned slowly against the dark, calm and patient and old, and somewhere on the other side of the system, 2 humans were strapping themselves into a very small ship and calling each other by short, enthusiastic names, and preparing to fly directly toward the single most attentive object in the known galaxy. Vreth-9 turned to his communications officer. "Give me a channel to their vessel," he said, "and do it fast, before they get any closer." Pollo looked up. "You intend to warn them?" "I intend to try," Vreth-9 said, with a specific tone of someone who had read enough history to know exactly how that usually went. The comm officer opened the channel. Static crackled across the deck. And then, clear as anything, a human voice came through, bright and completely unbothered. "Mav, you are absolutely not going to believe this reading." The 2 humans were named Tove and Mav. Vreth-9 learned this within the first 11 seconds of the open channel, because they said each other's names constantly, the way humans apparently did when they were thrilled about something, which, as far as Vreth-9 could tell, was most of the time. "Mav, the mass reading just jumped again." "Tove, that is physically impossible." "I know. Is it not incredible?" Vreth-9 pressed the transmit key. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vreth-9 of the Korrali Observation Fleet. You are in immediate danger. Please reduce your approach velocity and hold position. Do not, under any circumstances, transmit further detailed scans of the object ahead of you." There was a pause. Then Tove's voice returned, considerably more alert. "Mav, there's an alien talking to us." "I heard." "A real one?" "Tove, I also heard that." Vreth-9 waited. This was, in his experience, the most dangerous moment in any first contact scenario. Not the greeting, not the negotiation. The moment when the other party decided, in the space of a few seconds, whether the warning was worth taking seriously. Mav spoke next. Her voice was lower than Tove's, and she had the particular cadence of someone who made decisions quickly and regretted very few of them. "Commander Vreth-9. Understood. Holding position. Can you tell us what we're looking at?" That was unexpected. Most species, when hailed by a stranger in deep space issuing urgent warnings, asked first who was speaking, second why they should listen, and third, in many cases, whether this was some kind of joke. Mav had simply accepted the warning and asked for information. Vreth-9 found himself recalibrating his expectations at speed. "The object you call Maw 7, he said, is not a conventional singularity. It is a class of structure known to my people as a memory sink. It does not merely consume matter. It absorbs and retains the informational structure of everything that enters its gravitational influence. That includes, at sufficient proximity, active consciousness. Your probe is currently broadcasting clean data because the object is allowing it to. It is learning from the signal. If you bring a crewed vessel into close range, the rate of information extraction accelerates dramatically." Another pause, shorter this time. "So is eating our data," Tove said. "In a manner of speaking, yes." "And the 14 ships that went silent in your records," Mav said, with a tone that confirmed she was already running some kind of search. "Those were also close approach casualties." Vreth-9 looked at Pollo. Pollo looked back. "Your records do not contain that information," Vreth-9 said carefully. "How are you aware of our casualty data?" "I am not," Mav said. "I just assumed. Because if I had been watching something like this for 3 centuries, I would have lost ships to it too. And if the casualty count were low, you would not sound the way you currently sound." Pollo made a quiet sound that, in another species, would have been a laugh. Vreth-9 silenced him with a look. "Your assumption is correct," Vreth-9 said. 8 vessels. No wreckage. No signal. Understood. A pause, and then with genuine warmth. "Thank you, Commander. We are pulling back." And that Vreth-9 thought should have been the end of it. A clean first contact. A warning given and received. 2 humans alive who, by every probability model, should not have been. He should have closed the channel, filed a report, and gone to sleep for 14 hours. He did not get to do any of those things, because Tove spoke again. "Question," said Tove. "The 8 ships you lost, were any of them unmanned?" "No," Vreth-9 said. "So the memory sink has only ever consumed conscious minds from a crewed vessel at close range." "That is correct. And you said it is learning, getting larger, growing its mass because it keeps absorbing data from things that get too close." Tove's voice had taken on the quality of someone working through a problem out loud, with no particular concern for whether the answer was going to be comforting. What does it do with what it learns? Does it just store it, or does it use it? The command deck was very still. This was Vreth-9 realized with a feeling he could not entirely name, a question that the 96,000 pages of the Korrali archive had never once thought to ask. 14 ships worth of data, 3 centuries of classified observation, and the question had taken a human approximately 4 minutes to formulate, floating in a small vessel at a respectful distance from the most dangerous object in the quadrant, sounding genuinely curious rather than frightened. "We do not know," Vreth-9 said. "Right," said Tove. And then, after a beat, "Mav, I have an idea." "Tove," said Mav, "it is a good idea. You always say that. It is always true." Vreth-9 leaned forward. "What is your idea?" "The memory sink learned from consciousness at close range," Tove said, "but has never encountered a consciousness that knew what it was. Every ship that got close enough to be absorbed, they did not know what they were flying into. They had no context. They were, informatively speaking, blank pages. But if something got close, something that already understood what the sink was, something that was broadcasting that understanding deliberately." She stopped. "What does it do when it eats a thought it has never tasted before? What happens when it learns that it is being watched?" The silence that followed was the longest one yet. Vreth-9 sat back slowly in his seat. He thought about the 8 ships. He thought about the pulse he had seen in the holographic projection, the faint, patient rhythm of something waiting. He thought about 14 light minutes of empty space and 2 humans in a very small vessel at the edge of it, one of whom had just proposed doing something that 3 centuries of Korrali science had never considered, and the other of whom was already, very clearly, running the calculations. "You would be risking your lives," he said. "Technically," Mav said, "we already were. The risk profile would be substantially higher." "How substantially?" Vreth-9 looked at Poyo, who brought up projection model, and shook 2 of his 6 heads at once. "We have no data to model that scenario," Vreth-9 admitted. "It has never been attempted." "So, unknown risk," Mav said. "Possible outcome. We learn what the memory sink actually does. Possible outcome. It has never encountered a prepared mind, and it simply does not know what to do with us. Possible outcome. We become very famous very briefly and then stop existing." "Correct." "Mav," said Tove. "I know," said Mav. "You want to do it." "I want to do it so much," Mav said, and she sounded like someone confessing something both embarrassing and completely true. Vreth-9, commander of the Korrali Observation Fleet, veteran of 40 years in deep space, reader of 96,000-page classified documents, made a decision that no regulation he had ever studied explicitly covered. He said, "If you're going to attempt this, I am keeping this channel open. Every word you say, every reading you transmit, goes directly to our archive. Whatever happens, it will be recorded. A beat." Then Tove said very quietly, "Then it will remember us too." "Yes," Vreth-9 said, "it will." The small human vessel began to move. Vreth-9 watched it on the projection, a tiny bright point sliding toward the slow dark pulse of Maw 7, and he did not look away, not once, because whatever happened next, he understood with complete and sudden clarity that this was the moment the universe had been building toward for 300 years, and it had taken 2 humans for minutes and 1 very good question to get there.